Let me tell you about Anthony. He increased his salary from 80,000 to 125,000 in one single move. He didn't get a new degree, a new certification, didn't go through the massive job board hunt where you get rejected 10,000 times because you don't get answered. He made one shift and showed up, and it changed everything for him. Now, there's the part that matters here, and it matters to you and to me, is the shift. What was the shift that he made? And it all comes down to walking into conversations differently as an owner instead of an employee. That's what I want to talk to you about today. So you are listening to the Company of One podcast. I am Dale Callahan, and every week I come back here to try to bring you some of the things that we've learned over the many years, of working with professionals, helping them to take control of their income, to think like an owner so they never are at the mercy of somebody else deciding their future again. So if you feel stuck, we're here for you. So let's talk about Andrew's situation. Now, Andrew is a guy that was in our program, and I'd worked with him, and I oftentimes don't know that they've pulled off these things, but he sent me this email and told me that, hey, this is what happened to him. So let's talk about why this matters. What Andrew has experienced is number one, most people think income grows by adding skills or degrees. We see everybody out there skilling up, certified. On LinkedIn, I just got a new certification in whatever it is, whatever's popular today, and because tomorrow it will be something different. Now, I like to learn. I like certifications. I like degrees. Obviously, I stacked up a bunch of those things. They're fun, but do they move the needle? And for the amount of time and energy you invest, are they good? And the mileage varies, right, depending on what you're doing. But it is rare that an employer is going to hire you or up your salary just for a certification. And you may think that's what happened. They may even tell you that's what happened, but that's not what they need. Because flip it around. You don't need your doctor, for instance, to fill his wall with degrees, certifications, all those kind of things. Each new thing he learns may be something he can offer for you. But when you go in with a cold, or you go in with, you're cut, or you're sick, or whatever, you just need him to solve your problem. And it doesn't matter if he has the diploma up there or not. I have clients that are medical doctors, a couple of them, and they're trying to do board certifications. And it doesn't really mean anything. I mean, it means something to them in their business, but it doesn't mean they're a better doctor. They're already doctoring and serving people and helping people, and they're very qualified, but they haven't passed this little certification that gives them this check mark of approval. So your income doesn't grow just because you get these kind of things. And we see this at the university. We see people come back to the university to learn skills, they think, to grow their income. Now, some degree programs might help you with that, but that's not why the employer is going to do it. It's not. I remember when I got a master's degree, I worked for a large company, and I got a master's degree, had the nice diploma. It felt wonderful, right? And I got a letter from the executive vice president, or whoever he was, I don't know, some many layers above me, that congratulated me for getting the degree. And I remember looking at it like, where's the check? There's no check. There's no promotion. There's nothing that went with it. Because I was under that false belief too, that, right, you get the degree and there's immediate recognition that you know something else, but you don't. You don't really. So that's not a true thing. If you're out there chasing certifications, and especially if it's fun for you, that's one thing. But a lot of people, it's just grueling, and you're paying a lot of money for it. You're wasting your money if your goal is to just move up and make more money yourself. But income grows usually instead when your identity changes. Now, that sounds a little weird. but we think of ourselves as employees. And what we're doing is, as an employee, we think that it's up to them to move our income up, that they need to see something from us. They need to see a certification. They need to see a diploma. They need to see something happen. That's not the way it works. And it's not the way it works either when you hire people, like when you hire somebody to paint your house or a mechanic or something like that. Certifications and degrees probably don't mean a whole lot to you or me either. But so Andrew, what Andrew did here is the secret here that I'm going to share with you is he saw himself differently. He started acting as an owner instead of an employee, and that switched everything for him. So let's talk about what he did. So Andrew he's a smart guy, engineer, solid performer, fairly young guy, and just like many of us, he's out doing his job, thinking, "Hey, I would like to make more. I would like to have more impact." We all do, right? And we can take it. When you get a pay raise, there's this lull, right? You get a pay raise or you get some recognition. There's this lull. Now, is that lull 6 months? Is that lull a year? Is that lull 5 years? Andrew had been longer than he thought it should be. So before the shift, he was interviewing and looking for other jobs in other ways. Now, I'm not really here talking about how to be a better interviewer. I'm just talking about how we're going to think different, but it comes across in the interview also. But he was interviewing in the normal way. Pick me, right? You know, he would post out job ads. He would do all the normal stuff that is grueling. And I'm watching right now as people on LinkedIn are just talking, and friends have told me that the posted job ads are like it's a black hole, that you post something and it goes nowhere. And I don't mean just ones and twos. I mean, people have posted hundreds of things and have heard back from twos and threes, right? So it's an ineffective strategy when you do that. So what before the shift, that's what he was doing. Now, that's what Andrew was doing. He was just doing the typical interview, apply to jobs. But when he learned about the company of one mindset, what we talk about here on this podcast, that you are a business, that Andrew or Dale, I am a business selling services, and I'm not an employee begging for a role. Like, pick me. That's what most of us are doing. Once he shifted, he started doing some things differently. So here's what he did differently. He started treating interviews. Now, in Andrew's case, he left and went to a different company, but he started treating interviews like a two-way conversation. Now, you're probably thinking, well, how is he getting interviews? Well, that's a different thing. We'll deal with that later. But most of us, when we get into interviews, it's like we're expecting to be interrogated. The bright light is shining on us, and we need to be able to answer questions. We practice our answers. What do we say? What do we say? What do we say? Andrew went in as we're two businesses talking to each other, right? You're a business that has some needs. I'm a business that's a needs provider. Do we have a match? Right, that's a different conversation when you think about yourself as a business, because Andrew knew that he had lots of businesses that he could serve, and the businesses that, you know, the companies he was interviewing with might have lots of people that could serve them. So he's just having a conversation, and that's what he was telling me. He says one of the things he did is he went to a conference. And this is just this is such a small thing to me, and it may not be a small thing to everybody, but this is small and huge. He says, I went to a conference showing initiative, conference in his field. Instead of waiting for things to happen and connect, I was intentional and I wanted to learn and connect more. And that's what we do at conferences, right? Whether it's an academic conference, whether it's an industry conference, in this case it was an industry conference, is we think, let me just tell you, I don't see. I do a lot of. I don't do as many as I used to, but a lot of professional associations like the IEEE, like the PMIs, like the I was at a cybersecurity association the other day, and then the conferences. You don't see a lot of young guys and young girls, and I don't mean teenagers. I mean below 40. You don't see much. Most of the people that show up at these things are it's a retirement home. I mean, some of these, that's the way it is. There's a wealth of knowledge in the room, but many of these people, they're not looking to grow their career. They're at the pinnacle of wherever they're going to be or where they want to be. Many of them are corporate leaders, but there's not a whole lot of young people taking advantage of these things. And I remember when I first started, and even at this very moment, it's been the same thing. There's not a lot of now some of the places where there are like student associations, like on campus, you'll see more of that, of course. But in the actual professional meeting, if you show up, it's a game changer because you're just the one that's different, right? So he went to a conference here, and he says, I just showed up as doing something different. I wanted to learn. I wanted to connect. Now, he doesn't, I don't think, in his email to me, I don't think he realizes the impact of that is because, number one, everybody knows in the corporations, we know that a lot of younger people don't do that. And we also know that that's where leadership is about people. And when you're going to move up in the ranks, you're moving into leadership roles, usually by definition. So when he goes into the interview now, he's using this experience as proof that he's proactive and growth-minded. So they just had this conversation about going to the conference, and he's talking about the people he met and the things that he did. This is it was not a huge deal on his side in terms of the interview, and that's how he looked at it. But the listener, the interviewer, saw him differently. And I'm just telling you, as a matter of fact, we probably need to do an episode on this because that is a game changer. And one of the questions we ask people in our graduate program, our engineering management graduate program, is what professional associations are they involved in? And generally, the younger the person, the less likely they're involved in anything. And if it is, it's still on their campus where they got their undergraduate. They're not really plugged into a professional association. But even anybody, so it's an easy win to get there. And it's even if you're an introvert. I mean, if you're an introvert, it's actually an easier win. But we can talk about that some other time. So the other thing he did is he learned some financial intelligence. Now, he wasn't sitting here saying, I'm going to do the pay the bills for the company. I'm going to do the stock portfolios. He wasn't doing any of that, but he just learned enough of the lingo, right? He learned enough of the lingo. There is a great book. This is actually a book that's readable, right? It's called Financial Intelligence. By Berman and Knight, Karen Berman and Joe Knight. A great book. It's readable. It's eye-opening. It's not about a bunch of geeky numbers. It's about, hey, why do these matter to engineers? Why do these matter to managers? And how do you speak the lingo just a little bit? And he learned some of that stuff. And he wasn't an expert, wasn't claiming to be an expert, but he understood revenue, and he understood cost, and he understood cost of goods sold, and he understood, most importantly, where does he fit in this corporation's. I mean, he could look at the income statement of this publicly traded company and say, where do I fit? Where's my salary going to come from? And that's another game changer. I mean, because look, this is the language of the C-suite. You care about the numbers. That's why you're in business, is to make a profit. You may have some other kind of corporate missions, but you're in business to make a profit. And you can't employ people if you're not making a profit and growing. And that's what Andrew needed to be part of the growth and of this company that he went to work for, and being able to talk about it, being able to show that he was willing to grow and not just doing the same old junk that everybody else does. Let me put another certification on my resume. He positioned himself, though, as a partner and not a job seeker. Now, and that sounds so subtle, but when you start to look at yourself as an owner and you realize, I am a business. So I'm in the marketing role right now. I'm sitting here in an interview. I'm in the marketing and sales role. I would like to sell some of my services. If you look at what the good salespeople do, they're not whining and begging. They come off with strength, and strength sells, because nobody wants to hire a wimpy person that we have to take care of. And that's how a lot of people come off in the interviews. I need somebody to take care of my career and guide me. That's just so unappealing. So this is the kind of things that Andrew did. We can't go over every little detail here because some of it's very specific to him, and some of it's his stuff he doesn't probably want me to share. I haven't asked for permission for that detail. But these small moves created for him leverage, and that's the leverage. It turned in for 108. It turned 80,000 into 125,000. That's not luck. That's his identity. He sees himself differently. Now, the Andrew's story is not an outlier. Andrew's story is over and over and over again. People that start to realize they think about themselves differently, they're going in with more confidence. Confidence is the number one thing that I hear once people go through the company of one. I have confidence, and I feel like I am in control instead of a victim. And I watch on LinkedIn and I watch what's going on in the news media, and a lot of people out here, we're playing victim. Oh, well, the numbers are down. You know, the stock, I just saw a post this morning, the stock market is going up, but the number of jobs that are created is going down. You know, what's going on? Is it AI? Is it destroying the economy? What's going on? Well, that's kind of a victim mentality. You don't care what the numbers are. You care what your number is. You can serve people. You have skills to serve them. So the identity, though, becomes the income moves when your identity moves. You speak to me in strength, and it's going to be rewarded in income. And you think that sounds trivial, or you think that sounds like a simple promise. I've just seen it. It's not that there's some magic here, but I've just seen it over and over again. Strength generates income. Professionals get stuck because they see themselves as employees. You're not an employee. I realize that's the terminology we use, but that's not really how you're seen. You're seen as a service provider. That's why they're hiring you. That's why they give you money, to provide a service. So, all right, so here's a couple of takeaways. I want to just hand this back to you and put something in your hand. If you feel like Andrew and you're like, hey, I wish I could grow that salary. I met with some executive the other day that was, hey, I feel stuck. I'm making great money. I have a great job, but I feel stuck right here. But even in his conversation, I could tell he's still thinking like an employee. He needs to take ownership. Maybe he will. We'll see. Before your next interview or conversation, or maybe it's your manager, maybe you're going to run into them in the hallway, right? Because you always do. So we're not talking about necessarily a sit down, and that's a mistake a lot of people make, is they wait for the end of the year annual reviews to have conversations about value. That's a terrible time. It's just terrible. Nobody wants to talk to you then because they're just trying to check the box and get done with it. And you're one of 5 or 10 people on their team. Just shut up, sign the form. Everybody, it's awkward for everybody. Get out of here. We can talk more details later. So that's what you want to do. Is before a conversation, maybe even before a networking meeting, like going to a conference, write down 3 things. And you need to write them down because it's difficult. to get them. So, what problem do they need you? What problem do they need solved? Now, write that down. You're probably going to be wrong. I'm just telling you, you're probably going to be wrong. But going in with a little bit of a mindset of I'm here to solve problems is different. Instead of I feel like I deserve a pay raise, or I feel like I deserve a promotion, or I feel like I deserve that job over there. That's a terrible idea. Go in with the idea of what problems do they need to be solved. So write it down. And before you go somewhere, just start guessing. Hey, at this networking I'm meeting, I'm going to run into these people. This is what I think they are, right? What outcome can you own? That's the second thing. As you start writing down problems, and you should have 10, 20 of them, right? Even with your direct manager, you should have 3 or 4 problems that they need to be solved, because hopefully you've heard enough conversation. It doesn't mean you can solve them all, but awareness of their big problems can be really super helpful. The outcome you can own. Which one of these can you own? That's the second thing. As you look at that, what can I own? And this is, we all put ourselves in this box. Like if I'm an engineer and I used to do SS7 networking, right? That probably means nothing to you. That's okay, because it means nothing to a lot of people. Is this was my box. I lived in this box. If something wasn't about SS7 networking, it had nothing to do with me. That wasn't my problem. And that's how a lot of us think. But when you realize that skill set goes and touches so many other things, that what we do in marketing, what we do in operations, and differently, what we do in research, what our vendors are doing, when it starts touching all these things, and it does, they all do, right? Then you start realizing I have impact in things I can own that cross barriers. So get your head around some of that. And then what proof or story do I already have? What have you owned? And there's something. It may have been a project that had nothing to do directly with the job sometimes. Like, for instance, let me tell you one that when I worked for a company, I was trying to get a professional engineer's certification. And one of the rules is you have to work under a professional engineer. And so I'm looking at my chain of command, and there wasn't any. I think the closest chain of command I had was, that was a professional engineer, was my assistant vice president. So he was like 3 or 4 layers above me. I never met him, talked to him hardly ever. So, and I started thinking, I wonder how many other people are in this situation. So I got this state board book of how many registered professional engineers were in my company. And I sent, and I think I figured out how many were like me that were kind of on the in-between point. And I sent an email out to all the people that were like me, that were working on the professional engineer certification, and gave a list. Here's all the people in the company that have it. And hopefully you work for some. You need to be thinking about this. And it was just one of those things that I was struggling with, and I thought, some other people might be struggling with it. It wasn't a big deal. I just did it because, I don't know, I just wanted to help. That got so much traction. These people, because everybody who had the professional engineering license, I'm not thinking about it. They were all pretty much assistant vice presidents, directors, vice presidents. They were high-level people. And they noticed, and that got me a lot of traction. It didn't get me any bad press. It was, when I first started getting notices about it, I'm like, this was bad. But no, it was me taking an initiative, helping the company, because at the time, one of the things the company wanted was to get more professional engineers. So it was a big deal, and just something I did that wasn't directly in my chain of command. But I stepped out. It was something I could own. I wasn't thinking about it that way, but I did. And there were so many things year after year after year like that where I just owned things, and I took advantage of opportunities that was just stuff that I can help with. So how can you leverage these three things? So again, you just want to be thoughtful as you walk in to meet with people. Think about, I'm a business. What problems do they need to be solved? And if you don't know, start there. Hey, what's your big problems? Again, hallway conversations are fine for this. Hey, I'm just kind of curious. I saw somebody do this at the end of a Zoom call the other day. We were kind of busting off the Zoom call, and one of the guys asked somebody else, he was fairly new to the team. He said, I'm just kind of wondering, he was asking his boss, what's the biggest issue we got here? We were talking about issue X. Is that our biggest issue? And he asked this with curiosity, but it was a really powerful question because the boss that was still on the call with us started answering, and it was something even different than I didn't know that was a problem he had. So that's what we're looking at, is you being owner, you taking control, because at the end of the day, you are paid for solving problems. So if you think you are stuck, if you're feeling like I'm kind of stuck in this position and I've been here for too long, I don't know how to get out. You're not broken, first of all. That's you're normal. That's not a good thing here, but you are normal. If you want to help making that shift, reach out, send me a DM or email or whatever. I can certainly help you out there, give you some resources. I work with people every day creating 30, 60, 90-day plans. None of what we're talking about here is rocket science. It starts with the mental shift. And it's not, as much as I would like to say you can snap a finger and get there, it takes a minute. All right, it takes a minute. It takes you some time, depending on the person. But the cool thing is you don't need permission. You don't need anybody's permission, and you're not going to hurt your relationship at work. You're going to improve it because you are taking control. So look, let me just tell you, I'm a Christian, as you may have heard me here before. I believe you are created with a purpose. We're all created with a purpose, and with that purpose, we should be using our gifts to their full capacity. If we're not using our gifts, our skills to our full capacity, we're kind of like that story that Jesus tells that he hid the talent because he was scared the master, instead of investing it, and he didn't invest it, and it got taken away from him. So, all right. So if you're looking for more content like this, check me out on LinkedIn. If you're listening to this on a podcast, this is also on YouTube on the Company of One channel. You'll find this on my blog also at DaleCallahan.com. See you next week.